My most prominent memory of Mr. Holbrook comes from the Monday after Duke trip of last year. He spent the majority of the period on the phone with various people telling them how well our math team did at the competition and how proud of them he was. And it just showed a lot about how he was as a person and how much he cared about us.
Mr. Holbrook is just a person that you feel fortunate just to have met. Like, throughout the time I've known him, it was just inspirational just to hear him talk, and he got you excited about almost everything. Yeah, of course math, but he understood that the world, there's so much to see. He's seen so much. He, as many people know, has been a veteran, knew 3 languages, have just been in so many places. But I feel like he knew that knowledge is a world of its own that almost everyone can explore, math in particular. And he just got everyone so excited just to explore that. And he just was one of the most motivational people I've met.
He really loved math and he wanted to share that with everybody. It didn't matter what grade you were in, how good you were at math. He just wanted everybody to be a part of the math team because that's what he really loved.
We love you, Mr. Holbrook.
Mr. Holbrook also encouraged me to come to this school, and I don't know if I would have come to this to BCA if it wasn't for Mr. Holbrook. He really told me great things about the school and made me look into it a lot more.
He didn't just care about how good we were at math. He cared what he could do to make us better. He was more than just a teacher to me. He was actually like a father for me. I talked to him about more than just math. I talked to him about what was going on at home, you know, what I was feeling, and he would care a lot and he would listen.
He's always been there for you, and if you ever need help with anything, even if it's like not math related and you're just stressing out, he'll be there to talk to you.
There is Mr. Holbrook, the face of math team. The image that if you thought of math team, that was the person you thought of. Because he was always there.
He was always funny and serious at the same time. He could always say what was right, and he knew what the students were feeling.
Mr. Holbrook was the rock of the school.
I think he was a really awesome guy.
When I first walked in through those doors, I saw him with the usual sunglasses on, and then immediately I was terrified. I couldn't help but think that he was one of those teachers that might be one of those scary people who didn't want to help kids. So then I just walked to my seat and started doing math. But once I started doing math and I realized I had a question, I had no choice but to get up and ask him. But once I got to his desk and he took off his sunglasses and began to help me, I realized how much of a help and how great of a man he really is.
When I went to different math camps, my friends complained about how they couldn't attain some resources like books they wanted, or how they couldn't take certain tests that they really wanted to take. And those things really never occurred to me as problems because Mr. Holbrook always gave them to me so freely.
The state of New Jersey has a new champion tonight. They are the 243 students of the Academy for the Advancement of Science and Technology in Hackensack. As David Navarro tells us, their achievements came not on the athletic field, but on the academic playing field.
The expression, the square root of 6. If you want to find the top math team in the country, then look no further than the Academy for the Advancement of Science and Technology in Hackensack, New Jersey.
And numbing the pace.
In only its 3rd try, competing against the brightest and the best across the nation, Joe Holbrook's math team walked away with this year's top honors in the American High School Mathematics Examination.
It's quite an honor, more than you would ever expect. Just to be up there and to win, it was a shock.
It was an especially snowy day, and it looked like the weekend it was just going to snow more. And we were trying to have a practice for HMT that weekend. And Mr. Holbrook, with a very stern look of seriousness on his face, said, "If the roads are blocked, don't worry about it. I'll just roll into the school and we're gonna have practice anyway. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have practice tomorrow."
He lived uphill from BCA.
The school is not going to be the same without him.
And we'll all remember him for his incredible contributions. He worked 7 days of the week, and he always encouraged all the young students to pursue their interest in mathematics, and he always encouraged us to challenge ourselves, and I really thank him for all that he's done for us.
After 2 years after living in America, I was supposed to go back to Korea, but Mr. Holbrook stopped me from going to Korea because he felt that I was better off in America. Even though my parents made a decision to go to Korea after 2 years, Mr. Holbrook phoned us and told us, like, even if my parents go to Korea, I should stay in America. And my parents decided to stay just because Mr. Holbrook told us so. And that's why Mr. Holbrook was the most influential person in my life.
My first trip with him was actually internationally, and I think it's one of the 2 or 3 that he's ever done internationally, and it was to China. Quickly it stopped becoming a trip focused primarily on mathematics, and it became a cultural adventure where, you know, everybody bonded, and a lot of my good friends from math team were actually formed in my summer going into 8th grade on that China trip. And so that it's just the kind of thing that represents who Mr. Holbrook really is, the way that all of his expeditions and our adventures in math weren't necessarily just for math, but they also created lifelong friendships and relationships, which I still hold today in high school.
I know that he is still watching down on us from above.
He's instilled in me a love of math that I don't think I could have gotten anywhere else. That's probably my biggest trump right now. He was much more than a math coach to me as well. He was really like a grandfather.
I can't tell you which competition this was, because this is more or less all of them, and he'd say, all right guys, but this year, I really think we're gonna win. And this was his constant refrain. We're going to win. You're doing very well. Would you like a muffin? That was Mr. Holbrook.
In January, the AAST coach of 17 years, Joe Holbrook, passed away. His pursuit of passion, mathematics, was with a distinct purpose, and that purpose was to spread the joy of mathematics from the classroom to your home to a way of life. His work ethic was unimaginable. He worked 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, held practices every Saturday and Sunday. Sunday was for the 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders, middle school. Saturday was pretty much for high school students. But what he did was that he lived for mathematics. He lived for Arnold. He lived for you. And when I became principal of AAST, I was delighted to work alongside Joe. Little did I know that I'd be signing trip forms to send our team to NISML, to Stanford, to Harvard, to Princeton, to Duke, and to Changchun, China. Joe had a way of convincing us that math competition was an important part of a child's education. So Arnold does not seem the same for us without Joe. Joe's been a participant first with the Long Island team and then with AAST for almost 30 years. We feel his loss. I'd ask you to spend just a moment in silence to recognize this great educator, this great man, our teacher, our friend, Joe Holbrook.